All this South African national cross-country motorcycle racing action is proudly brought to you by Pepson Plastics in association with Kawasaki Motorcycles, South Africa. Jolivet Farm and the Coles Farm, the layout and the setting for the opening round of the championship. KZN Racing hosting this event, and we were going to see what was going to go down. Now, this event, always a polarizing event. You either love racing in KZN or you hate it. There is no middle ground. So we're always going to see a little bit of local knowledge coming into play, and in the previous years, we have seen the extreme riders do extremely well at this event, maybe bringing the blushes out to the establishment for the national off-road racers who are in it for the championship. We caught up with a couple of the superstars.
Something new. Just lucky to get a race under the belt before our actual season starts overseas. So yeah, it's just good to be back racing. I'm heading back over probably in April. The championship starts in May. So then yeah, that's the first round of the World Championship. So I'll go back to France, do some testing, and then get ready for the season.
Not just the extreme enduro racers though, but also retired MX superstars as well.
I'm done with motocross. Well, not done with motocross, but I'm not racing motocross for profession anymore. So I get to do a bit of everything that I haven't done my whole life career. And I started riding a bit of enduro last year, and then everyone said this was a really good race to come do off-road. So Brad gave me his practice bike, and I'm cleaning it and having a good time.
The reigning Masters champion Wayne Farmer, with injuries, was still out there to play though.
Yeah, we're back to my olden ways, if I put it that way. Two-stroke, I find it just much more fun and easier to handle. The four-stroke just wants to kill you all the time, But we're out here in this lovely Jolivet place, and it's a treacherous route out there.
Another rider changing brands, the gas now of Scotty B. Burberry in the house.
Yeah, look, it's been a while. I haven't been here in a good couple of years, and I just thought I'd come out. It's quite close to our stay and good, nice, lot of rain, so track looks good, and it's feeling good to be back.
And talking about new manufacturers or manufacturers returning to the fold, Kawasaki was back in the house. Ian Pepper tells us about the story.
We did something. Chris Payton, Kibble came to the party at KMSA, Motel on board again, ourselves, our family, Pepson Plastics. Likewise, it's a good package. We got to be able to work with it, and we think we're making it work. We're trying to market it, to promote it, and it seems to be creating a lot of interest.
So that was in the pits, now out onto the track, and it was going to be muddy in the morning, especially for the prologue, where the top guys had drawn for a random gate start. Cox would go out first to open up the track, and then everyone else would go out onto the circuit. It looked like it was definitely not going to be an advantage to go out early on, and hopefully the track was going to rut up nicely. Thompson, who was a big threat in the senior gate, would go out on the Pepson Plastics factory Kawasaki, still in its development season, but the morning session was going to be a very interesting setup. And for some riders, the first time we'd seen them actually drop the hammer on new machines and in new categories. Remember, the off-season had seen a hell of a lot of moving and shaking, where riders had stepped out from their established gates and were moving up through the ranks. Cox, who was the first rider out, was the first rider home, and he really had to throw down a big one. He had no tracks, nothing was rutted up, but the 350 still brought him home in a good position.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I've been wanting to go up to the big class for a while, but obviously, KTM, we've stayed on the 250 now, and to wrap up 2 championships was really cool. And in the OR3 class, and I couldn't be happier to be on this 350. It's, for me, the best bike. And to put it on in pole in class and 4th overall, I'm ecstatic. I had to go out first, so I was a little bit like, I felt really good, but I was like, hey, did I do enough? But no, I have. So we just take the day. Hometown, can't ask for better. It's what we grow up in, and it's just the Coles always put on such a good effort, and it showed already in time trial. So I'm excited for the main race.
Top senior Wade Blau went out there and did a little bit of up close with nature, tree hugging, but he still qualified well.
Yeah, surprisingly, I must have had 2 little crashes connected to a tree. I think I can't wait for the Millifield races, but we're here now, so let's make the best of it. I really enjoyed it.
Brett Swanepoel, first time out on the big 450. He says he's more comfortable on the big bike. time, and the season, though, will tell. Yet a good run on the big 450. As with Swanepoel, Jared Coetzee had moved up to the 450s and was, on paper, looking like a big threat as well. Sharon Moore, the reigning champ, battled. Couldn't get the numbers going in the time trial. He'd be looking for a better run in the main event. And Dav Cocker, the man who was desperate to get the big job done on the OR3s, went down, didn't lose too much time, but it wasn't going to be a pole position. He would have to chase through the pack in the main event. The honor of the OR3 TT run went to Hayden Cole.
Yes, I'm very chuffed with that. I've surprised myself a little bit, but just try to stay smooth and stay on the bike, and it paid off.
Super deep 125 high school talent pool down in KZN. The kid to beat at the moment coming out the time trials, Dylan Jones.
I see the second rider is close. He's just seconds off me, so no mistakes on all the laps. So hopefully I get a good have a good race and see how it goes.
A new master in the house, always going to be tough to beat them down in KZN. This is Greg Nan, and he is going to be the thorn in the side of Wayne Farmer for the rest of the season. Greg knows his terrain and his bike extremely well.
I've done a race here before. It is a home advantage, but just hanging cable today. Go fast or go home. That's the plan today. So just gonna now just try and be consistent, do some good laps, and hopefully I'll come at top.
And in the OR1 big bangers, it was the gas of TT, Travis Teasdale, on top this time.
Yeah, look, I've been putting in some work the last 2 weeks, knowing that there is an off-road coming up. I don't really do the off-roads, but this is sort of the first one of the season, and I always sort of do it because I'm still at home, and it's quite exciting for the extreme guys to come out and do the ride. So it was really slippery out there, but so we got some work to do out there today.
The juniors were down in Jolivet as well, and for this season they have a full national championship. Gas was in the house, and we saw a couple of different brands, but we were going to see the same names at the top that were going to be threatening to see if they could get the big number 1 plates. Remember, a lot of these juniors, especially the ones racing in the senior 85s, it's 1 year left for them, and then they move up into the 125 high school gate. That's what they're getting prepped for, and that's why they're in the same queue and in the same pit. Brandon Clark and Kobus Bester opened up our racing account. They would use a majority of the early part of the senior lap. They were going to get chased down by Tommy Scales. Scales was going to be a big threat. Scales knows this area very well, and he's done his homework. The 37 of Trey Cox was also going to see what he could do. Not a classic enduro or off-road racer, but motocross gives you that footing and grounding to be able to go out and rip the bars off. A good entry from our junior categories, giving us just over 12 riders going out there onto the mixed terrain. And they would also see if they could actually challenge their way through the testing terrain that was laid out. Mud is definitely a key feature for the junior riders. Remember, they are running with much less power, much less traction as well. So they're going to see what they could do to go out on this terrain. Running a little bit wide in the corners in the early stages would be a nice big wake up and get the heart rate running before you go out into the forest and the terrain. Join us after the break when we go into the big loop out at Jolivet. Back to the Jolivet farm, and with the time trial done and dusted, or mudded in this situation, all the riders and especially their pit crew had to get back on point, make sure the machines were clean, fresh and ready to go for the main loop. They'd be clean, maybe not too long, but at least clean bikes run a little bit faster in the first couple of kilometers. The terrain on the time trial gave the riders some idea of what they were going to face, but we were still in the highlands. We hadn't gone into the forest or into the mealie fields, so it was still going to be learning on lap number 1 when we went out the gates full time. The queue was full, and all riders were now amped and ready to go out and attack. This was the first round of the National Championship for 2021, and all riders were starting to feel the nerves starting to kick in. Smiles for now, but thoughts were turning towards the day and what the rest of the route held. Double T, Travis Teasdale had gone fastest on the 69 gas, so he was going to be opening up our racing account on the day, chased down by Wade Young. Remember, last year it was Wade that actually won this event, so he was going to see if he could go 2 for 2 on the 2020 and 2021 run. Scott Burberry was on his wheel, and then the big threat for the overall was the 350 of Cox. Swanepoel, you know, not to take anything away from the big bikes, it just doesn't look like a big bike track. KZN has never delivered good results for the big 450s. This is 350, 250 and blue smoke territory. Even the extreme rider, that's Luke Walker, went out there, and the 450 of Pentecost tried a little bit too hard and got happy with the throttle. Pentecost, this is not up his alley though. He is a fifth gear superstar, and he was looking to see if he could simply survive. The top 250, Dav Cocker. Really no one in the ballpark at the moment. Himself and Cole would do the chase down, and then we went back into the queue. Even Matty Green on the 47 gas was out there before he started to get his passport out to go international racing. Taki, a bad run on the time trial. He would have to go and plow his way through the traffic, and he was stuck in the middle of a ton of the high school 125 and 250 races. The GXCC reigning 250 champ, Karam from last year, a bad qualifier for him. He was down way deep in the pack. He would have to come through the traffic. The top master, Greg Nan, and then straight after him, guess who? It's Farmer. A little bit of silence fell off the start gate as we started to go into the forests. And you can see that attacking style of Double T, Travis Teasdale, he was holding nothing back. But remember, he was having to open up the track, so the advantage was definitely to the riders behind him. They would have a little bit of noise, a little bit of roost, and a little bit of tracks to chase down as Travis was opening up the loop. Second place was going to be Wade Young, but remember, it was very close off the gate for Young, Burberry, and Cox, and you could see how close Cox was. He was dirty. He'd been taking a lot of roost. Maybe for now, he was happy to just follow a wheel until he learned the course and then would be able to drop the hammer. Swanee, Cole, and Jazz closely bunched to try and see if they could get their numbers going in their respective categories. And then for now, Pentecost was inside of the top 10, trying to see if he could still chase down something. Dav Cocker had obviously gone down hard in the early couple of kilometers, smashing down his peak, but was still the man to beat on the 250 gate. Walker was there, and then the story was a big dice starting to happen between a 250 and a 450 of Charon Moore and Scotty Haygate. Brawler was there in the mix, and just on his back wheel was Walker. And then, this was the story. A lot of bunching. The time trial had been very, very closely run. There were a couple of gaps at the front end of the field, but just outside of the top 15, running from the top 15 to the top 20, it was extremely close. So there was a lot of bunching happening out there on the track. Wasn't just for the pros though. Remember, we were covering the clubmans and the junior events, and the clubmans and juniors had a little bit more fun in the highland, more open sections. They would have their taste of the forest, but in the early stages, it was flatland racing and elbows up for the guys that joined us. We had really good entries for the opening round of the South African National Cross Country Race Championship Series, and it was cool to see great numbers. We hope that all these KZN superstars do follow the tour and come racing as we go through the rest of the country. Back to the national gates and racing out of the OR3s. Nodis Robbie had come racing with us again, trying to see what he could do on the 250s after a full season off. And he was in the mix, elbows up with one of our top masters, Carl LaRue. Another master who'd made the trip, and this is a name to watch out for as well. Warwick van Skalkwyk, very, very strong, and actually used to race back in the day for the Shell Suzuki squad back in the 90s. He's a master now, seeing what he can do. Back out front, and so fast in the descents, looks like he is out there pinning it in Erzberg, and that is TT out front. Cox has now made the pass. He's done 2 passes out there to now run in the 2 spot. He's got around Wade Young and Scotty B, and then Swanepoel has joined the queue. So everyone working well together, like they do out on Extreme Enduros, to learn the course on lap number 1. Jazz Kutsia not too far off the back wheel. It wouldn't be long until he joined the fray to make it a 7-rider run out front. Oh, just beautiful to hear a 300 revved up and pinned in the silence of a forest. Big change up though. Swanepoel made the big pass back and got himself back into second place and would run second in the OR1s. Remember, the 300 smoker is classified as an OR1. And then third on the road and first of the OR2s in his first race out for the Nationals. Cox in good form. We always said 250 and 350s run perfect down here in KZN. Scott Burberry still doing a good job at this stage, running third in the OR1s and starting to lose a little bit of time there on that lap to the rest of the chasers. Also, no show here for Wade Young. So on this lap, we lost Wade. He had some issues out there on the loop that allowed Jared Kutsia to come on through as the rest of the riders started to figure out where they were going to fit in the overalls. Cool to see a nice build on the opening lap as well for Dav Cocker. He'd swapped out his helmet after lap number 1. He was now peaked and he was going to go chasing with Cole. In fact, those two were separated by just a few seconds as they headed onto loop number 2. Back in the pits, and it was going to be time to start thinking about bringing the riders in and getting the hydration running. The flatland section coming into the Jolivet Farm pit area was absolutely spectacular. A lot of S's to get the guys calmed down, and before they rolled into the pits, get themselves ready to throw goggles, hydration, and fuel to go out on the rest of the event. TT was locked and loaded, and by this stage was now starting to extend and pull his gap. They did close him down a little bit on lap number 1. Laps 2 and 3, he started to pull the pin. Cooking the brakes. That's because he's been dragging the brakes a little bit on the big descents, but he runs such fast pace the whole way through. Here's Wade and the story of why he is in the pits and not on the track.
Yeah, so not the best day. Got a decent start, and then I think just going on to the second lap, my spark plug unraveled itself and came out. So I thought I'd seize the bike, but spark plug just came loose, and then I tried to get back going, and some frame bar came out. So it was just a bit of lack of going through the bike before the race, so it's just a small mistake, but it was a good track, very well marked, well organized, and it was fun.
F1 time at the factory KTM squad. Cox in great shape now confirmed as number 2 on the road and the outright leader in the OR2s. Cox looking to nail down the big number 1 plate. Swanepoel had got himself up into 3rd on the road and 2nd of the big bangers, so it was true that he was feeling comfortable on the 450. Scott Burberry now 3rd place in the OR1s. The Slayer, Will Slater, spinning the spanners on his TBR suspension quickly. Jazz Kutsia was also in good shape, running inside of the top 5.
How's it going?
It's really rough out there. Struggling with my setup a little bit, but otherwise, keeping it together.
These conditions were always going to chew things up. Mud creates whoops, creates ruts. That's the story of the day. Top 250 and outright leader in the OR3s at this stage. Dav Cocker in good form. Also, fast spanners on the Husqvarna squad. Cocker had made the pass on Cole in the early laps to try and run away. Join us after the break as we close in on the end of the first event of the season. Back into the action of the opening round of the South African Cross Country Motorcycle Racing Championship. The Coles Farm out at Jolivet, and everyone was in the pits praying they could keep on trucking through. Cole had done a good job at this stage. He was still inside the top 3 for the OR3s. We caught up with a dart.
Oh, it's good fun, eh? Technical. But lekker, having fun.
Take his phone number.
D'Artagnan Lovejoy, remember, at this stage, only 3 weeks of riding on the Pepson Plastics Factory 450. He is the big banger rider and was still chasing down a top 5 finish at this stage for his first national. That's a good start for him. Out there in the forest, though, the track was holding up for some, rutting up for many, though. And you could see the guys that hadn't put in the preseason training were starting to really suffer. It was in your face.
It's been tough. It's my first race in Natalia, so it's a bit different than back in Gauteng, so it's been tough.
Tough ride for Nicole Duplessis, stepping out of the 85 juniors last year. First year in a pro ladies and onto her dad's 350. Yeah, Natal can really separate things. It is a tough riding terrain. They say if you can wax Natal, you can ride anything, and that's the idea as well. That's why we see such strong numbers coming out of Natal. Martin Poole was still doing a good job running inside the top 5 for the Masters Gate, and one of the top Yamahas racing out of those numbers. Clarkie, this is Brad Clark, Brendan Clark's dad, doing a great job of it. Warwick van Skalkwyk not enjoying the terrain down in KZN. He is a bit of a throttle cable stretcher, and he'll enjoy it when we go out into the big terrain. Thompson, same story for him. He just didn't get a good run going on the event. Got jammed up in the mud, lost a ton of time, but we'll expect to see Thompson certainly race himself well inside the top 5 for the championship later on in the season when the tracks start to open up a little bit more. Remember, Thompson running and developing that Pepson Plastics Factory Kawasaki 250. Try and get some more power out of that thing before the end of the season is done. there was still plenty of moisture in the lowlands and throughout the forest, and you can see the black dirt was just offering zero traction for those tired bodies, especially the riders racing in the regional and clubman classes. Black dirt, KZN, it's always going to have that clay base down in the KZN valleys, and that's why if you can figure out how to get the traction down there, it is a good run going. Carl McKenzie, also riding out of the Pepson Plastics factory Kawasaki squad. He had some health issues, actually picked up a little bit of food poisoning throughout the weekend, and a few crashes didn't help his goals either. Checking out how things ran in the Masters class then, check this out. It was a good run going for Carl LaRue. He actually walked away with a third place. Wayne Farmer having to settle for number 2 spot, the reigning champ. And it was a new guy on the top of the boxes. First place, and now the championship leader in the Masters class coming out of round 1. Greg Nairn on top, Farmer doing the chase down, but the tracks will open up more to Farmer's liking at rounds 2 and 3. LaRue in good shape, de Klerk, Poole, and Van Skalkbeck, his first time out there racing on KZN.
Oh, Wayne and I, we managed to have a good ding-dong on the first lap. I made a mistake, he passed me, and then in the forest, I managed to catch up to him, put some pressure on him, and then we had a bit of a dice on the fast stuff, and then eventually it almost looked like he said you can pass, and once I passed him, I never saw him. It was quite a clear run. So yeah, I had a good day, feeling good on my bike.
There were plenty of seniors racing down in KZN, and a very rare sight of Akim Bergman. He is always on the 300 smokers. This time around, getting picked up by Pepson Plastics. He is on the 250 machine, actually on Pepper's ride at the moment, and he walked away with a third place at the opening round. The terrain definitely suited his style. A big 450 Kawasaki this time in the hands of the franchise company CIT of Dion DeToy. Dion, in a fight-back season, walked away with second place after breaking 3 toes on the event as well. Ow! And then after hugging the big tree in the time trial, Wade Blau managed to just consolidate and bring it home once again. The top senior, the super senior, Blau on top once again to open up his racing account. Confirmation then of Blau on top ahead of DeToy and Bergman. Gregory, not bad to see Stewie out there on the big 500, walking away with a 5 spot ahead of the ever-consistent Marco Cocci, Clark, Oliver and Thompson. In the high school 125s, a stacked gate and a very tough gate to race in KZN. To make the top 3 is a big brag. John Burta walked away with the number 3 spot, and then Damon Cox, remember Dylan Cox's brother, Damon stepping onto the 125 for this year and getting the number 2 job going for the RBS Yamaha squad, who have a very good footing down there in KZN. And then Dylan Jones on the top step, riding out of KTM Durban. He is the man to beat now on the high school 125s as we head on into round number 2. Hopefully, Jonesy makes the trip up as we go racing beyond Gauteng. Cox, Berta, Swanepoel and Jonker ahead of Alexander, Donaldson and Struick.
Yeah, what a day it was. It just got rough and rough. Thought I was racing in America, but yes, it was a proper track.
Proper track indeed, proper racing. This is what went down in the OR3s then. And the OR3 250s is an extremely tough gate. There's probably about 6 guys that can win a championship and win a national every round. Dylan Cox, who ran good last year on the high school 125s, walks away with a 3rd at his first time on the 250. Scotty Haygate, just great to watch him in this terrain. Really started to come to life on the cross countries and the off-roads. And then Dav Cocker, who had to painfully run the number 2 spot last year behind Cox. And that was a situation that he didn't want coming into this year. Cox jumps out into the 350s. The 250 is open. And this guy is definitely the man to beat on the tour and every race that he lines up at the moment. Confirmation then of Dav Cocker on the Rockstar NG Husky on top ahead of Scotty Haygate and Dylan Cox. Hayden Cole, who was our pole man, dropped down to 4th place during the event, beating out Stefan van Deventer to a number 5.
Today was quite tough. I had a few mistakes, quite a lot of them, going down, losing my front brake, but other than that, the track was sweet and got it to the end.
The OR2 350 gate is going to be an interesting one this season, and I hope this rider does make the full tour, because what a surprise package. Kieran Fitzgerald, multiple motocross champion racing out South Africa and internationally, walks away with 3rd place, not too far off the back wheel of the brawler. Now, Ian Rawle has been cursed in KZN in the past. He dropped outside the top 5 before. Now, this time, starting his championship chase in 2nd place. But they've all got to beat this guy. Brad Cox was in sublime form. Remember, he has spent the last couple of seasons ripping the bars off 250s. Now he's got extra grunt. He is the man on the 350s and the leader now coming out of Jolivet in the OR2 OR2 class, and he walked away with second place on the event overall. Confirmation of Cox on top ahead of the brawler, Fitzgerald, Egger, and Merry, the top 5.
I was feeling good, and then I overshot in the cane, and I dropped it. And then I had to come from behind. And then, when I got like pretty close to Wade, his bike unfortunately broke. And then, I thought, okay, let me just carry on picking my lines. Track got super rough, and I managed to pass Brett on about lap 4, and then, I just brought it home. Super happy. Win the OR2 class and second overall. I'm very stoked to start the year off like this.
And then the big bangers. Let's count them down inside the top 5. First national out of the gate for Dart. D'Artagnan Lovejoy on the 450 machine coming out of Pepson Plastics Kawasaki did a great run of it. Also, this is a bit of a bogey event for him, so just to get 5th place points is a good start. Jazz Kutsia in good form as well. Remember, there's a couple of superstars up the road, but these are the guys that will be in it to win it for the championship. Jazz's first race out on the big 450, a good start for him. And then Scott Burberry, a big surprise package. Didn't race this event last year, so no good footing. A brand new machine for him now on the gas. And he is an extreme rider, so he doesn't normally use the entire gearbox. He put himself in a very strong position there. Swanepoel, the man who is the reigning champion coming out of the OR2 gate from last year, moves up to the 450s, and he wants the championship this year. He is going to be really the man to beat when we go out and stretch the cables. Travis Teasdale, he says this is a one-off for him, so he'll take the win, and he did take the win at that. Second place last year, first place this year. Travis Teasdale double TT and the gas on top. Confirmation of Teasdale winning out at the opening round ahead of the 450 Rockstar Energy Husqvarna of Swanepoel. Burberry, Kutsia, Lovejoy, Lowe, Greeny, and Pentecost rounding out a strong number 8.
Yeah, the trackers was really slippery in the beginning. Looked like the boys caught me up on the first lap a bit, and then about halfway through, when we got into time trial, I knew this morning that I could put the hammer down in the forest section there, and I pulled a big gap coming into the first lap, and then again I just tried to keep smooth and not make any mistakes on lap 2, and I just kept pulling.
We hope you enjoyed the footage coming in from the opening round at Jolivet. Join us for the next round at the GXCCs in Modi Molly on the 27th of March. We'll be out there. All this racing action has been proudly brought to you by Pepson Plastics in association with Kawasaki Motorcycles South Africa.